Johnny Carson had hosted The Tonight Show for 30 years. 30 years of making America laugh before bed. He'd interviewed everyone. Presidents and poets. Athletes and actors. Comedians and criminals. He'd perfected the art of the 7-minute segment. How to make any guest look good. How to find the joke in any situation. How to keep things moving. But nothing in 30 years had prepared him for the moment Muhammad Ali went completely silent. It was 1979. Ali was still fighting. Still the most famous athlete on the planet. Still the greatest. He'd been on Carson's show a dozen times before. Always electric. Always quotable. Always performing. The banter between them was legendary. Ali would predict rounds. Make jokes. Shadow box in his chair. The audience loved it. Carson loved it. It was easy television. Fun television. Safe television. That night started the same way. Ali walked out to massive applause. Bigger than usual. Something about seeing him in person, even through a TV screen, created energy. He was wearing a dark suit. Looking good. A little slower than his prime, but still Ali. Still carrying himself like the champion he was. They shook hands. Ali sat down. Made a joke about Carson's tie. The audience laughed. Carson fired back with a gentle jab about Ali's poetry. More laughter. This was the rhythm they knew. The dance they'd done before. 5 minutes in, everything was going exactly as planned. Then Carson shifted. His tone changed slightly. Not dramatic. Just a degree or two cooler. More serious. Champ, he said, I want to ask you about something. May I? Ali nodded. Still smiling. Still performing. You can ask me anything, Johnny. I'm an open book. Carson reached under his desk. Pulled out a photograph. Black and white. Old. He held it up for Ali to see first. Not the cameras. Not the audience. Just Ali. Do you remember this? Ali's smile didn't fade immediately. It took a second. 2 seconds. Then recognition hit. You could see it in his eyes. The exact moment the past caught up with the present. His smile froze. Then slowly disappeared. He stared at the photograph. Said nothing. The audience didn't know what they were looking at. The cameras hadn't zoomed in yet. But everyone in that studio could feel something shift. The energy changed. The easy banter evaporated. What is this? Ali's voice was quieter. Different. The performance was gone. Carson turned the photo to the camera. It showed a young Muhammad Ali, then still Cassius Clay, in a gym. Maybe 16, 17 years old. Skinny. All potential and no championships yet. And next to him, an older black man with his arm around young Ali's shoulder. Both smiling at the camera. The older man wore training gear. A coach. A mentor. This is you and Joe Martin, Carson said gently. Your first boxing coach. Louisville. 1958. Ali nodded slowly. His jaw tightened. His hands, which were never still, went completely motionless in his lap. Joe passed away 2 weeks ago, Carson said. Did you know? Carson stopped mid-monologue. The entire studio froze. Ali's head dropped slightly. He shook it. No. He didn't know. Nobody had told him. Or maybe they had and he'd been too busy. Too focused on his next fight. Too caught up in being the greatest to remember the man who'd helped him become that. The silence in the studio was absolute. Doc Severinsen and the band had stopped their ambient playing. Ed McMahon sat completely still. The audience, 300 people who'd come for laughs, held their collective breath. I didn't know, Ali finally said. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. I should have known. Carson set the photograph on his desk carefully. Like it was precious. Like it mattered. Joe's daughter sent me this. She said her father talked about you until the very end. Said you were the best thing that ever happened to him. That watching you become who you became made everything worth it. Ali's eyes were wet now. He blinked rapidly, trying to maintain composure, trying to be Ali, but failing. I haven't talked to him in years, he admitted. I got busy. I got famous. I forgot the people who were there before any of it mattered. He never forgot you, Carson said quietly. She wanted you to know that. And she wanted you to have this. Carson pulled out an envelope, handed it to Ali. Ali took it with shaking hands, opened it slowly. Inside was a second photograph. Same gym. Same two people. But this time young Ali was mid-punch, working the heavy bag. And Joe Martin was watching with an expression of pure pride. On the back, in handwriting that trembled with age, someone had written, "The day I knew you'd be champion. Proud of you always. Joe. Muhammad Ali." The man who told the world he was the greatest, who'd never back down from anyone, who'd face down governments and armies with words and fists, covered his face with both hands and cried. The cameras didn't cut away. The director in the control room made a split-second decision to stay on Ali's face. To witness this. To let America see the greatest break. Carson didn't try to comfort him immediately. Didn't make a joke to ease the tension. Didn't do any of the things a talk show host is supposed to do when a segment goes off the rails. He just sat there. Present. Holding space. After what felt like an eternity but was probably 20 seconds, Ali lowered his hands. His face was wet. His eyes were red. He looked at Carson. I should have called him. I should have visited. I got so caught up in being Muhammad Ali that I forgot to be Cassius Clay. The kid from Louisville who just wanted to learn how to fight. He knew who you were, Carson said. Both versions. And he was proud of both. Ali nodded. Wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Tried to compose himself. Can I say something? He asked. To the camera? Carson gestured. Of course. Ali turned to face the camera directly. His voice was still thick with emotion but steady. If you got somebody in your life who helped you, who saw something in you before anybody else did, who believed in you when you were nobody, don't wait. Don't get so busy being important that you forget to say thank you. Because one day you'll want to thank them and they won't be there anymore. And you'll have to live with that. The audience started to applaud. But Ali held up his hand. I'm not finished. The applause stopped. Joe Martin didn't just teach me how to box. He taught me discipline, respect, hard work. Everything I became started in that gym with that man. And I didn't even know he was gone. That's on me. That's my failure. Not as a boxer. As a human being. Backstage, he made a choice no producer would have ever allowed. Carson stood up. Walked around his desk. This almost never happened during an interview. The host stayed behind the desk. That was the format. The rule. But Carson walked over to Ali's chair. Ali stood to meet him. And Johnny Carson, 30 years of professional distance, of keeping things light, of never getting too real, hugged Muhammad Ali. It wasn't a TV hug. Not a quick embrace for the cameras. It was a real hug. One man holding another while he processed grief and regret in front of millions of people. The studio audience didn't make a sound. Some were crying. Many were crying. When they separated, Carson kept one hand on Ali's shoulder. You didn't fail him. You honored him by becoming exactly what he saw in you. But I understand what you're feeling. We all have people we wish we'd thanked sooner. Ali nodded. Sat back down. Composed himself as much as possible. Can we talk about something else now? He asked, trying to smile. I'm supposed to be here promoting a fight. This ain't good for my tough guy image. Carson laughed. Genuinely. Your tough guy image is fine, champ. Crying for someone who mattered to you doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The interview continued. They talked about Ali's upcoming fight. His training regimen. his predictions. The usual Ali bravado slowly returned. But it was different now. Softer. More authentic. The performance was gone. What remained was just a man. A man who'd lost someone important and hadn't gotten to say goodbye. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. After the show wrapped, Carson did something he rarely did. He went to Ali's dressing room. Knocked. Ali was sitting alone, still holding the photographs. Carson sat down next to him without asking permission. "You okay?" Carson asked. Ali shrugged. "I will be. Eventually. Just hate that I didn't know. Hate that he died thinking I'd forgotten him." "He didn't think that," Carson said firmly. His daughter wouldn't have reached out if he'd been bitter. He was proud. Right up to the end. "How do you know?" "Because I read the rest of the letter she sent. The part one didn't share on air." Carson pulled out another envelope from his jacket pocket. "She said her father watched every single one of your fights. Had newspaper clippings covering his walls. Told everyone in the nursing home that he trained the greatest boxer who ever lived. He died happy, Ali. Knowing what you'd become." Ali took the letter. Read it silently. Fresh tears rolled down his face. "I'm going to Louisville," he said after a moment. "For the funeral. And I'm going to thank his family. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows that without Joe Martin, there is no Muhammad Ali." "That's good," Carson said. "That's right." They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Ali looked at Carson. "Thank you for doing that. For showing me those pictures. For letting me break down on television like that. Probably ruined my reputation." Carson smiled. "Your reputation is fine. But I think you might have helped someone tonight. Someone watching who's been putting off a phone call. Who's been too busy to visit someone who matters. You might have just saved them from the regret you're feeling." Ali nodded slowly. "Then maybe Joe's death wasn't just a loss. Maybe it was a message. For me. For whoever was watching. Maybe it was." Carson agreed. But this was the moment no one in the studio, nor anyone at home, ever saw coming. The next day, the clip was everywhere. News programs. Radio shows. Newspapers. Everyone was talking about the night Muhammad Ali cried on The Tonight Show. But it wasn't mocking. It wasn't diminishing. It was reverent. People understood they'd witnessed something real. Something important. Carson started getting letters. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. People writing to say they'd called their old coach. Visited their childhood mentor. Thanked someone they'd been taking for granted. Ali's public grief had given others permission to confront their own. Ali went to Louisville for Joe Martin's funeral. Showed up unannounced. The family was shocked. The local news covered it. Ali gave a eulogy that reduced the entire funeral home to tears. He talked about the scared 12-year-old who'd walked into a gym because his bike had been stolen and he wanted to learn to fight. About the man who'd seen potential in that scared kid. About how every punch Ali ever threw, every championship he ever won, started with Joe Martin's patience and belief. After the funeral, Ali funded a boxing gym in Joe's name. Made sure kids in Louisville who couldn't afford training had somewhere to go. Somewhere they could meet their own Joe Martin. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. Years later, when Carson retired from The Tonight Show, reporters asked him about his most memorable interviews. He mentioned presidents and celebrities. But he always came back to that night with Ali. "That was the moment I realized what this show could be," Carson said. "Not just entertainment, but witness. A place where people could be real. Where grief and gratitude could exist alongside laughter. That's what television should do. Hold all of it." The photograph of young Ali and Joe Martin stayed in Carson's dressing room until his last episode. He'd look at it sometimes before shows. A reminder that everyone successful has a Joe Martin. Someone who saw them before the world did. Someone who believed first. Muhammad Ali fought for many more years, became even more famous, more beloved, more recognized. But he never again let himself get too busy to remember where he came from. He stayed in touch with the people who'd helped him before he was the greatest. Learned the lesson Joe Martin had taught him one last time, that being great means remembering the people who helped you get there. The Tonight Show aired thousands more episodes. Carson interviewed countless more guests. But that night, the night the greatest cried, remained singular. A reminder that vulnerability isn't weakness. That gratitude matters. That the people who see us before we're famous deserve to be remembered. Joe Martin never got to hear Muhammad Ali thank him one more time. But his daughter did. His grandchildren did. And millions of people watching learned that lesson before it was too late for them. The photograph stayed with Ali until he died. In his home. Next to his championship belts and Olympic medals. A 12-year-old kid and the man who believed in him. The beginning of everything. The foundation of greatness. And somewhere, in the space between fame and gratitude, Muhammad Ali learned what Johnny Carson already knew. The people who help us become who we are deserve more than our success. They deserve our presence, our acknowledgement, our time, before it runs out.